It seems like all of a sudden, people are talking about risk management. It used to be called safety, or flight safety, or some such thing, but now it's called risk management. It's not new, and it won't solve all of our aviation safety problems. What risk management is, though, is a systematic approach to identifying hazards or potential hazards and finding solutions for those areas which present the serious hazards to aviation. It sounds simple, and to a large extent it is. All of us in aviation are constantly on the lookout for hazards, and when we find them, we report them, or we should report them, to whoever is responsible for fixing the problem. In a perfect world, with unlimited resources of manpower and money, we'd just go and eliminate all hazards, regardless of cost. Because there are limited resources, both in government and industry, we have to recognize those hazards over which we have direct control and can effectively resolve with the resources that are available to us. We also have to recognize which hazards pose the greatest risk and deal with them in order of priority. Also in a perfect world, hazards would obligingly crop up one or two at a time. They don't, of course. You can probably find a few in any of your flying activities. What we need is a systematic way of assessing the risk posed by all the hazards likely to affect our operation so that we can come up with a priority list for dealing with them. It's not a one-time priority list either, because things change and change brings with it the possibility of other risks. The world of aviation is constantly changing, especially in the area of electronics. Look at the Global Positioning System, GPS, for example. It's possibly the greatest revolution in aviation since the jet engine. GPS could eventually replace every other navigation aid in the cockpit. Traditional navigation systems include many electronic devices. ADFs, automatic direction finders, to locate airport radio transmitters. VORs to help follow established flight routes, and through triangulation identify exactly where you are along your course. ILSs to keep you on a correct descent during instrument landings. DMEs to tell you how far you are from the airport, and the list goes on and on. Imagine in the future only one navigation instrument to look at for the entire flight, to do everything GPS. It will obviously mean an enormous benefit in terms of simplicity of navigation. And there are also other projected benefits, including reduced fuel costs, maintenance, and downtime costs. On the other hand, there are risks involved and questions to be asked, and they pertain to the almost incredible accuracy of GPS. When we plug in the coordinates, GPS takes us right there, directly on track. What it doesn't do yet is tell us what kind of terrain is below. One pilot who felt pressured into completing his trip because of a business appointment used his GPS to keep him on track because of some bad weather. Unfortunately, there was a mountain directly in his path. GPS can take us directly to the threshold of a runway, if the threshold coordinates have been accurately surveyed. It wouldn't take much of an error to cause the airplane to miss the runway and hit a hangar. That is why Transport Canada and the other regulatory authorities around the world have adopted a step-by-step approach in moving from the traditional ground-based nav aids to a completely satellite-based system. When the transition is complete, all the risks will have been identified and largely eliminated, ensuring that the GPS system will be as reliable as the older tried-and-true methods of navigation. GPS will also make possible for private pilots something called free flight. Currently, and in the past, instrument flying is conducted along established routes or airways. These are sometimes circuitous in order to take advantage of the land-based navigation aids. Free flight would largely do away with this, and people could fly pretty well where they want to in a direct line. The benefits are obvious, the hazards less so. The concept of free flight is relatively new for general aviation, and we don't yet understand all of its ramifications. The hazards will have to be managed before free flight is implemented. But it is not just change that brings hazards. Many of the hazards we face have been with us since man first took to the air. Some of them, like weather, can't be changed. In order to work around them, pilots must do their own risk management when planning a flight. First, with the actual and forecast weather to determine if the proposed flight is feasible. Then, by taking a close look at the fuel levels, alternate airports, and both the airplane's fitness and our own personal fitness for flight. The answers to these questions will help develop a flight plan that minimizes and manages the risk. Pilots have been doing that all along, you say. Well, yes and no. More and more people are now looking at risk the way regulatory authorities are looking at GPS and free flight, by systematically and logically identifying hazards, assessing the risks they impose, and dealing with them in some order of priority. We can't take on all of the hazards at once. That's beyond the resources of any one government, company, or individual. Systematic risk management is not magic. It's common sense. It's a way of examining an entire system. A single flight from A to B is a system, and moving us away from managing risk based upon emotion or gut feel. I think I have enough fuel, or I think the weather will be okay, to a systematic and logical way of dealing with these hazards and the risks that they impose. I'm Mike Dwaron, inviting you to return next week to fly with us through the Overcast.